Hello, everybody, and welcome to Technically Trek. I am your host, Dave Prime, and over there is my guest co-host for the week, Fleet Admiral Travis. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. How about yourself?
And I cannot hear a word anybody's saying, so technical difficulties on.
Yeah. Oh, Can can you hear me, Dave?
I think I can hear you now. It looked like I was muted, so yay. Go ahead and speak again.
All right. Well, just saying,
Okay.
everything's good on my end. Just a lot of rain here, in West Virginia. Just day after day, it's just rain, rain, rain. It's so green here, and then it feels like you lived in Seattle before, but it feels like nonstop rain. You like it'll rain for a few hours and it'll stop and then start up again for the last almost 2 weeks.
But would that then put it at glimmering levels of rain if we were on Ferenginar?
Not that constant. We have rain, but not that much rain.
Yeah, that's definitely Seattle, but yeah, it's definitely been kind of a little bit on the rainy side here today. It's the first significant rain we've had in a while. So, but there's talking. j- Let's see, get my bearings straight here. Just up to the west here, the Pikes Peak is expecting up to 30 plus inches of snow in the next 24 hours.
Oh boy.
But it's just
Oh
like, yeah,
boy.
down here at 6,000 feet, it's just rain. So, but
Hmm.
with hiccups aside, I'm glad you're able to step up for us tonight, Travis, because our my regular co-host Katie, she's not feeling that great, and so I just like, and she's so apologetic. She wanted to reach out and say thank him, Travis, so much for filling in. But I was like, no, you have nothing to apologize for, Katie. We know what you're going through, and
Absolutely.
say if
Absolutely.
yeah, if she needs a week off to get better, to get recentered, just more power to her. So just like yay
Yeah.
for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Katie, it's just one time.
Yeah.
It's not, going to be this whole thing where you're going to be, totally absent. But yet, you know what? One time, take care of yourself.
Absolutely. And actually that kind of be yeah, I was having mic issues too, Tyson. So yeah, you're not the only one. And I was having headphone issues too. So everything backstage right before the show was working great and fine. I hit go live and everything goes so just like yay. What the heck? Oh, is it oh yeah. And so you just hopefully made it look like I was typing hopefully there, Travis. I was just like, I didn't see anything. What the heck? But all the goofy nonsense aside, saying that our episode, as always, is being partnered with by W Energy. And so you use the code TechTrek TEKTREK at the website w.gg. You get 10% off your order. A 30-day tub is about $40 before the discount. I've been trying their mystery flavor. I've been trying it for a week now, and it does truly say where it gives you like the focus and the energy without the jittery crash that you get later on, like with some energy drinks.
That's
And
good. That's
but
good.
yeah, but trying to figure out what this mystery flavor is, I'm thinking I can't put my tongue on it quite.
Well, I mean, you are putting your tongue on it, but
Yeah, but
they're trying to figure out the mystery way.
well, I in their Discord, which Dangerous Thoughts does have a Discord. If you join on there, I'll get the link going. Just bit.ly.dt_fam. That gets you hooked up with Dangerous Thoughts. It's coming live soon. And saying, but if it wasn't for
Absolutely.
Manu and Tyson's show on that one Sunday, we're thinking, hey, we want to still talk about this topic. And my topic, well, we were just BSing for 8 hours, and I think I fell asleep about 4 hours into it. But according to Katie, my snoring was a great white noise in the background.
Well, Dave, let's get on to our show and discussion at hand because I figured
Exactly.
we got some people backstage, and I
Oh,
mean this is probably a pretty unique episode topic.
oh yeah, especially with the reason why I chose this episode and the episodes for the rest of this month is because it deals with addiction in one form or another. Even though my primary was alcohol until 11 and a half months ago. And it's saying it still
Congratulations.
kind of still hits hard. It hits home because there's all that stigma, just like you need that fix to survive. And
Oh
when you have
yeah.
when you have that, if you take that drug, you take that shot, you snort that snuff, you take a shot, it makes you
You know,
think you're feeling better.
you know, somebody who I never experienced any kind of form of addiction and stuff. I'm not one to want to like discuss, someone's problem stuff. Just for me being an outsider from like in this episode where Wesley asked Data the question on the bridge and
Mhm.
Tasha intercede and I'm like that with Wesley and stuff and everything.
Mhm.
And it's like, for me, it's hard for me to understand, but I'm not walking in other people's shoe, because people want to escape the world around them that is harsh and painful and stuff, and but that's just one reason. Some people actually take drugs just for the fun of it, just because they bored and stuff and everything
Well,
else. And go ahead.
yeah, and Tasha hit it pretty hard, saying that is that you're not doing it just to feel good again. You're just taking it so you're not feeling that down when you go through that withdrawal. You take it again to maintain that level of sobriety.
Yeah,
Is just so
and
you're feeling normalized.
and Wesley said, and that's the trap. I mean,
Eg-
it,
and Wesley being in his naivete or however the heck you say that word, just like
naivete.
I don't understand, and Tasha's like, I hope you never do.
Exactly. I said, I hope you
But
never do. And that's really that. I love that whole scene on the bridge.
mhm,
That really gave a unique perspective on you know what we, I should say, in the 21st century has been dealing with, not just the 21st century, but, in the last, I say, 150 years, maybe, because, different forms of drugs existed way before, synthetic drugs came around.
mhm.
You know?
Yeah, but there's a fun little tidbit that I was reading up on this, but I'm gonna bring our next person that's just sitting backstage. Tyson, how's it going, sir?
He
You got
said,
your mic working?
uh-oh,
You're
hailing
muted.
frequencies
Can
low.
you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay, okay. Before when you guys first went live, or just before you went live, I was talking, you guys couldn't hear me and I was unmuted. And so I couldn't hear you, Dave. I could hear you, Travis. So I had
Mhm.
to drop and come back, and now it seems to be working. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, see, I was unplugging and plugging my microphone in a couple of times. The headphones, the microphone, I think was working fine, but ah, technology. That's what makes technical in a different respect.
We got some, nanoprobes in our systems.
Oh, but as you were backstage, Chasing, and Travis and I were talking about that scene on the bridge. Like two things. That was the only time there was ever any one-on-one interaction between Tasha and Wesley. See, when you think about it, it's just like holy crap, they're right.
Yeah, well, I mean, not everybody interacts with everybody all the time. So yeah, there's going to be characters that rarely, I don't recall Data talking to the blue haircut guy either, but there he was.
But a majority of the crew and the cast actually disliked that interaction with Tasha and Wesley because this is like the height of Reagan's "Just Say No" campaign back in the 80s. I'm old enough. Well, Tyson, you're at around the same age I.
Watch it.
That's
Tread
say
46. I'm 46, so I remember the Just Say No campaign.
You're 30. I thought you were 36 or 46.
46.
Oh,
46.
actually, yeah, you're right. Yeah, because we were talking about checking your
Oh.
poop shoot there about a week or two ago with the uh,
Yeah, with
no,
Amano.
it was an episode with Manu. Yeah, we're talking about
Hmm.
checking for colon cancer and all that. So,
Oh
which is
yeah.
still
No, I do the like the Cologuard. It only um oh, it's not Cologuard. It's like an off-brand version of Cologuard. But
well,
I do that
but
instead of.
it's kind of like it's like Kleenex. I mean, there's so many different brands, but no matter what the brand, it's Kleenex.
Okay. So Cologuard. Where you send in a sample and they don't have to like shove a camera up your ass. That's really attractive when you turn
Yeah,
50 to as an attractive alternative to and oh, I never like it when I have to go to the doctor. Like sometimes you never know when to expect it either. Like sometimes you go to the doctor, he does the stethoscope ear, okay, you're fine, go. And then one time you go into the office and snap, and you're like, oh no,
we
oh
know
no.
what's going to
And then
happen
he gets out
here.
the KY jelly and starts greasing up. I'm like, oh God, no. I mean,
Oh,
I'll
for
I'll
me,
turn and cough all day long, but not the.
for me, that's party time.
Well, we know what position you play then, Travis.
Yeah, it's called Kermit the Frog.
Before we get too far off the deep end, back to the episode.
I would have brought potty favors if I'd have known this was happening.
Uh, but yeah, it was the beginning of the episode was very very sciency. It's the way I described it was checking out the solar flare activity on their sun out there and
I was
it was
very
the
happy to see
Dalo
that.
system.
Yeah,
yeah.
I was very happy to see that David Marcus didn't really die. I thought a Klingon killed him, but there he was.
So it wasn't until I was much older until I realized that that was the same actor.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then again, though, I was like I was like 11 or 12 when this episode came out, so I don't actually even remember watching Wrath of Khan when I was a kid because it was just too early for me to recall. But even after watching it when I was older, it's just like he looks familiar. It's like oh, and it wasn't his last role, but I think like
He
after
died
this
shortly later.
11 months after this episode aired from AIDS.
Yeah.
Never knew he was family.
Oh,
But the one thing from the opening sequence that kind of took me a little off guard is Picard ordered LaForge to engage Warp 2 inside a solar system.
Me by surprise too. If they was in the same star system, they could have just used impulse engines.
Yeah, full impulse. Yes, but I mean, because I mean, it's gone a couple of different ways. Because especially like later series by Picard, number one is they were engaging maximum warp inside a solar system, but by then they've kind of refined how they're able to do it without like crashing into a planet.
here's
But
how
Yeah.
crazy it is. Star Trek 1, they make a big deal of leaving the solar system before going to warp, right? Star Trek
exactly,
Yes.
motion picture. Then by Star Trek 4, they're warping in Earth's atmosphere.
yeah,
Mm.
that too.
Don't get it. Do not
Well, they
understand
were
how you went
using
from
Klingon engines.
which is probably designed to kill all humans. Like why would you?
This is what I suspected too. You're not supposed to open up a warp envelope inside a planetary atmosphere. It's not recommended, but it can be done. That's why
Well,
that's a little thing you could say about why you seen the bird of prey just enter warp in the atmosphere. it's like, well, if they can do it, then there must be a logical reason,
Think of the
but it's
time
not
frame
recommended.
and the ozone layer problems we have. You know how we have a hole in the ozone? Now we know why.
Yeah.
Fucking bird of prey
Nah.
just went to warp, took part of the atmosphere with it. Yeah,
The verb.
you're not even supposed to do that in the solar system because you're warping space in front of you and behind you. You're
Hmm.
compressing it in front of you. You're expanding it behind you, and it takes a great deal of energy to warp space. And if you're near a solar system, that can affect the planetary orbits and stuff like that. So warping in a planetary atmosphere, that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. They could have at least let the bird of prey get far enough away before it went to warp. Like I just
Went
thought that was
full impulse. They could have went full impulse engines,
sure.
instead of, but
Well,
yeah,
they had to go to warp towards the sun in order to build up speed. I get that, but
yeah.
you can go backwards like to Mars. Get a running start, right? Like the DeLorean, you have to back it up before you try to hit 88. Go back to Mars, line up, and then punch it. But don't warp
Wonder,
in the atmosphere.
I wonder in this episode, the writers, made a technical flubber when it comes to go full impulse engine instead of saying go to warp. They gave Picard the line go to warp two. They should have said go to full impulse engines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I want to blame that on the writers because they you know people like us, you be like, we catch up on those little things and be like that didn't make no sense.
Was it the writers, or maybe the writers know Trek better than anybody, and the directors said, no, it's going to be more action if you go to warp. It
Nah,
could be either way.
it could
Could be
have
either way.
been. Yeah.
Yeah, saying but it was still early on in the series, so they're still trying to find their footing. I was like, later on, I would think one of the actors say, "This doesn't sound right."
In the technical in the opening scenes and stuff where they was studying the star, I like how they blotted out the photosphere and they zoomed in and you could just see, the eruption, in the, like, I guess the coronal part of the star and everything. It was
Mhm.
really interesting to see that because it was so funny watching Picard do his hand like this and then he's like, blot out the photosphere. It was really, I was really, that right there, that little special effect was like, okay, now you had to take that into account because we can't look directly at a star with our naked eye. But if
Unless
you
you're
blot
Donald
out,
Trump.
Mhm.
I mean, if you have special glasses, so
No, he took
goggles and
off his
stuff.
freaking solar eclipse glasses and was doing this.
I saw
Any
that. Yeah. Oh
moving on,
boy.
moving on. Not a political
Yeah,
Yeah.
show.
and now just kind of since we're touching base, that I did that stickers from that moment. The people putting on gas pumps and other stupid things that he's done, but yeah.
Idiot. Anyway,
Anyways, onward. What some of the other don't know if there's anything else that you guys wanted to talk about regarding what you saw at the beginning of that the the first the opening act sort of thing. My
I
my
love his
my, my
electric
brain
eel
is just
thing.
like today.
I love that
Pretty
electric eel.
interesting. It was, yeah, the whole, like, all the consoles and stuff was like, bombarded by what did Wesley say? X-rays. And they
Hmm.
was just got this, the whole ship and everything else was just, have these, it was just the effect and everything else. Even they were still pushing the consoles and stuff, and it's like, should this be wise? I mean, all this electrical surge throughout the entire ship, and y'all still, putting your hands on the consoles and stuff. No one's gonna get, you know, where you know the episode where Picard put his hands on the two consoles on the bridge, and everybody was like, "Ah." It was pretty interesting to see that the view screen and all that. It actually they took that to a step throughout the entire episode. They didn't just say, you know what? Well, we fixed all the glitches and stuff and everything else. They experienced all the electrical interference that was thrown from the star and stuff and everything. It was a constant thing, throughout the entire episode. I thought that was pretty neat.
And I read something that like the shield effect while the ship was getting hit by the gamma rays was a soap bottle being like hit with static electricity or something like that to kind of give that effect, which I thought was kind of cool. Same for
Okay.
87, 88. That's a pretty clever way of doing things. Unlike
Well,
with the board ship from Q Who, it was all when they did the zoom in of the ship when it was chasing the Enterprise, it was regenerating. That's just a reverse image of someone melting some parts to a plastic model kit, which again,
and
clever, but in 1987, 88 standards, not bad, but by today's standards, like, what the heck?
well, 10 years earlier for the motion picture when V'ger, first scanned the bridge with that looked like a neon light bulb that went around the
Mm.
bridge, but it had the static electricity, remember, that was zapping all and
Ilea.
uh Chekhov, yeah, burned his hand, it so I
So
mean that was
no,
10 years
nothing to fear.
earlier. Huh?
Yeah, true. Say,
Oh,
do not interfere.
I remember his lines. Ah! No, before he was
Mm.
absolutely I will not interfere.
Uh,
Yeah, but just the I'm just trying to think, read my notes again and watch it. Like I said, it's been an interesting day to say the least.
well,
So,
well, let's talk about this. After they got the distress call from
hmm
the freighter and stuff and everything else, that whole scene it cracked me up in a sense to where his name was Tijon,
hmm
who basically Captain Kirk's son.
yeah,
When he was talking to Picard, it was sound like Picard was talking to somebody who didn't really understand. He kind of seemed slow in a way. He kind of seemed like he couldn't answer simpler questions if you were a spacefaring, you know, has spacefaring capabilities and stuff like that. Picard kept asking questions, and you could see both him and Riker was just annoyed with just some of the answers he was giving him.
Mhm.
I thought it was so funny because Picard was just like, "R- really? No, like
how can someone not know this?
like you don't even know how to operate your own. He's like, how long have you been a captain? I was like, oh, now this is an
Mm.
interview. I thought it was just
Seven?
funny.
Yeah. So there's definitely that, but there's also like a little bit of a time hiccup. I want to say because I mean Tijan's ship's like ready to literally crash and burn. It's like it's going to happen in 2 minutes. Yet he's just going through all these questions. Have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? Get them the frick out of there.
Just like, I mean, time is of the essence, and it's just like, really? I mean, your ship is decaying. It's falling into, unstable,
Descent.
yeah, into the planet. And it's gonna burn up and stuff. It was just like really that whole scene just cracked me up with it because when Riker and Tasha got to the transporter room,
Mhm.
You could tell Riker was annoyed. But then when they when Tasha was gonna bridge their transporters to try to get a good lock on to them,
Mhm.
and then they sent over their cargo, they were just
He's
like,
like,
"Are you sick?"
they're just. I mean, honestly, if I were in their position, I'd be like, "What the frick?
Because
What?"
they sent over, and we didn't understand why did they do that. I mean, we were just like, why would they do that? There's going to be an explanation of why they do that and everything. And then Riker was getting ready to contact him. He said, never mind. He said, Tasha, just lock on to anybody that you can get. It was just like he said, forget it. I'm not even talking to these people anymore and stuff. And then the sad part about it, there were supposed to be two more. but they end up going down with the ship.
Mhm.
But the captain didn't go down with the ship.
Oh, and like one of the other notes, so you say not only was Kirk's son Merritt Buttrick was in Star Trek 2, Han's right hand man, Sobe, the other Breckian or Onaran.
Oh yeah. What was his
Yeah,
name? His name
he
was
Joaquim
uh wasn't it
Judson Scott.
Justin Scott. Justin Scott, yeah. Justin Scott.
Judson.
Judson.
Yeah.
Justin Scott. And you know he had a recurring, well not recurring, but he did if you guys remember in the Voyager episode Ship in a Bottle,
Oh yes.
he played the Commander Ricard of
Ah.
the Romulans that led the forces that took the Prometheus.
Hmm.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, you're right. And to my surprise, Phil's in the chat. Hello,
Hey
sir.
everyone.
You feel?
Hey, I'm doing this on my phone right now because I don't have anything set up yet. But
I'll say, well, Travis, until he got his laptop, was doing it on his phone as well. So
Well,
there
for
you
what it's
wow.
go.
worth,
Just
your
so I got it.
windows look clean. I love it.
Oh,
He's in his
well,
new digs.
somebody has to keep the starships clean. Yeah, I'm in the new place. It's still all just like piles of boxes right now. But
Oh, I
You
know
got
that's
your looks like
right.
you got the pineapple lamp back there.
this was actually, yeah, this was something already in the unit that was already put in by the landlady. But I don't know, it's kind of cute, so I left it.
It works.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna be moving in less than a year, so
Uh,
I feel you.
not fun.
I haven't even started. Not a single thing is packed, and I mean, see my room. It's a
Hmm.
fucking hoarder's nest. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
so
Are you
you're
still gonna be? Are you gonna be in the same location, or are you moving to San Diego?
Colorado or Colorado Springs, like Cassie keeps on bugging you too.
I'd love to. I don't think that's within a 2-hour travel distance of my office, which is the requirement. Even though I'm a telecommuter, I work from home. You have to be within 2 hours of the office. Now, that may
Well,
change, and if it does, I may move to Colorado. But no,
there's Kaisers up here.
and there's talk about, if you work within a Kaiser region, you might be able to do it, but it's not available yet. In any event, no, I'll be moving to the other side of Ramona. I'll still be in Ramona, but I will get this, likely be living in a motorhome.
Oh,
Not that
Oh,
I want to live in a motorhome, but the owner of All Day Radio will be, as an ADU. He's going to set up in the back. It's all hooked up for motorhome. And Peter, who is my friend that I think I told you guys he passed away. He was one of the ham radio people that I was working with. So he lived on site on a motorhome there. He willed his motorhome to somebody else, but the owners want to buy a new motorhome and put it there. And they want somebody there to watch the property, not to work, just to live there and watch the property. So they're going to buy a motorhome and they want me to move in. And my dad's selling the house, so I have to move out. So it's, you know,
mm.
Yeah.
looks like that's going to be
yeah.
what happens. So I have no idea what my background is going to look like in a year. It might be,
Well, as long as you got the Callie and Teresa,
yeah.
I haven't seen either of them floating around in the background the last couple of weeks.
Hold on. Ah, sleepy dog. I know you were asleep, but they want to
Nope.
see you. Doing, 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 doing.
Hey,
There's the
Peppers.
pops.
Look at you.
Hello.
Mwah, right on the beak. She said, "Why did you wake me up?"
Like, leave me
Hey,
alone.
what was that? What?
Oh.
What? 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 Oh, she said my breath stinks. Well, yours doesn't smell like
Yeah.
roses either.
I wonder
All
if
right.
Porthos will be the same way.
No, Porthos likes cheese. Ooh, you smell like cheese.
Like with the episode, another thing that I was reading up on the name the drug Felicium derives from the word Felix, the Latin word Felix, I should say, which means happy or fortunate. It's just like so it
Okay.
kind of plays into that episode because it makes you feel happy after. I mean, that's a
Yeah,
pretty potent drug. I mean,
Yeah.
as soon as they hit it on their vein and their on their wrist, bam, they're high as a kite. So I mean, the, the
according
Breckians, I mean,
to
they were definitely refined the drug there.
yeah, I mean, because they, it explained, because when I went back and rewatched this episode, I was like, oh wow, it really gave a
Yes.
good insight on just how they was addicted to this drug,
Oh,
and
highly addicted to it.
just the potency, just what did they said one canister alone, like 4 billion doses.
Or I
They didn't
think the entire thing was 4 billion doses. I think.
said
Yeah.
he estimated to be 4.375 billion doses. And that gives you a good estimate of just how many people on, you know, Onar,
Yeah, or Honora. Yeah.
Mm.
that they didn't need it, but they wanted it,
Hmm.
Yeah.
you know.
Well,
And it was
that's the evil of addiction. Once you
Mm.
start using it, you need it to survive.
as what Tasha said, she explained it so eloquently about, you know, you at one point it actually were the cure for the plague on both worlds.
Hmm.
Okay.
But the Breckons, they basically cured themselves of it, but yet they realize, you know what? Let's not tell our
The
friendly
Onarans.
neighbors, the
Yeah.
Narns, that we broke free from this. But they had that little symbiotic thing. But come to find out, the Breckons was just what you call it, drug dealers.
You
You
know
know.
what's
Yeah.
funny? Let me turn my camera back on. Sorry. What's funny is I had to put the dog out. After I woke her up, she decided she needed to go,
Oh, maybe
and
it's a
just
good
go
thing you woke
outside.
her up then.
Yeah, yeah, because she has a nasty habit of if I don't let her out, she'll just leave a present on
Oh,
my bed.
oh
Um,
no.
Oh.
and well,
Winnie and
actually,
Charlie, Winnie did a lot of that too in my bed.
well, a solid present isn't so bad. You can kind of pick that up and kind of Lysol it down, but when she pees, that just goes all the way through to the mattress.
Oh.
So I got to be really careful with that.
Yeah.
Um, but it was a great analog 20 years before its time to opiates. People
Mm.
were
Yes.
prescribed opiates for
Yes.
legitimate reason. Like you got in a car accident, you were in severe pain, and you were given Percocet or Vicodin or something of the like for a legitimate reason, and it served a legitimate purpose. But after a month, or 2 months, once your body starts to heal, but you've now become addicted to this opioid because it has an addictive tendency with it, right? So even though you're now cured and you don't need to use it for that anymore, you still want the opiate, and so you keep taking it.
Y-
And
y-
that's what it reminded me of is like this might have been the cure, but once they were cured, they were addicted and they kept using it. And nobody was talking about opiates back then, but it was such a perfect analog to today's
You know
opiate
what,
crisis.
Tyson? You spoke to something that hit me because I remember seeing some years ago about Michael Jackson. When do you guys remember? Because we're all old enough to remember when he was doing a Pepsi commercial, and he ended
His
up
hair
Yeah.
burned.
getting, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Apparently, he ended up getting hooked on some, as you was just stating, some of the
Opiate pain medication.
Yep.
opioid and pain
Mm.
medication and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and I didn't even realize that for the longest time. Only within the last, I say, maybe 10 years that I learned that Michael Jackson was hooked on that all the way back. Was that it was back in what, 85 that he get was 84, 85, something like that.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
when that happened.
Well,
It was definitely
opioids
80s.
make you feel high, and
Mm.
it gives you this really, and that's it. Part of that has a pain um analgesic effect where when you're really high like that, like nitrous oxide, when you go to the dentist, you feel kind of high and happy, and
Hmm.
that has pain relieving properties, but it has addictive properties. So it does,
Yeah.
and the thing is, you take it for legitimate reasons, but then you have to be weaned off slowly, because if a doctor just pulls it, your body starts to uh, crave it, and then you look for street drugs like heroin, which is a type of opiate, to
What that's what
satisfy, and
happened in
then
this
that's how they get.
episode.
Yeah.
Because
Huh?
you saw this happened in this episode. You just kind of explained what the Onarans was experiencing from
Yeah.
from the Brekian drugs, the Felicium. You
Right. The
know, they
Felicium did cure the disease, but it had that addictive property, and once the disease was cured, they kept taking it because it felt good, but they didn't know they were taking it because it felt good. They thought it was keeping them alive
yes,
because
Yes.
the Anarans, or the other group, didn't tell them.
The Breckians, yeah.
right.
Well, kind of jump forward in the timeline. The Breckians kind of karma bit him in the ass when the Breen invaded them in that season 3 episode of Lord Dex Trusted Sources, which also kind of like showed that the Onarans they said it took about 10-12 years, but they're saying the enterprise what the enterprise did by cutting them off from the Felicium was the best thing that ever happened to them. They went through a horrible withdrawals, but after that they're a more health conscious species.
Also, too, they even if you guys remember too, he has data about the history on the Honorans and the Breckians, and he kind of gave a brief summary of their history because I forgot which one was upcoming was coming as a fairly technological civilization, but apparently 200 years ago, if we look at it 200 years ago, that would have been, I guess, during Archer's time.
Hmm.
And you look at that, they stopped being, trying to like, actually having developed like fundamental development.
Yeah.
You
Phil,
okay,
you
Phil?
okay?
Oh
Oh,
no, I'm sorry. I am listening.
Oh, it looks like you're dosing us. Like, are you
Oh
okay?
no, I
Are
promise I
you
am.
on
I am
something?
listening. Sorry about that. I apologize. No, I am actually listening.
No, no, no.
I was just
You look
closing
like
my
you were
eyes while
tired and
listening.
you were taking a little nap there.
Oh no, no,
I'm
I'm still
guilty
here.
of that myself.
I am a
Hang
little bit
on, drop
tired, but
drop
I
one.
promise you, I am listening to this.
Okay, yeah, because like I said, with what's been going on in, I won't go into details because A, we're live about it. B, it's a sober house, but there's
Right.
been issues, and if I see something, you say something.
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay, okay.
But yeah, you've been pushing pretty hard with the move and all that. So
Well, we
uh,
got Phil here.
it was
Let's get Phil's interpretation on this episode too, because
I
it's been a while since we have him here. I'm hope everything is good with your move and stuff. I know you still moving and all, but
yeah.
let's get your insight on this.
I sure, I'll just throw it a little bit, I guess, because it's I didn't get a chance to see the whole thing. I saw some chunks and bits and pieces actually. I had seen it a long time ago. I have it's been a long time. So I came back into it and watched a whole bunch of bits and pieces. I do remember first thing was I probably some of this has been brought up already. I thought it was funny there was two actors from Star Trek 2 that were um in this actually, which I thought was kind of interesting. I don't know if they did that on purpose or it just happened that way, but I thought it was
yeah,
interesting. They had I
Yes,
can't think yeah, I can't think of their names now. I'm drawing a blank on their names, but
the
um
characters or
the
uh
two actors that played in Star Trek 2.
yeah, one was Khan's. I don't know if it wasn't his son, but it was his, or was it his
his
son? I don't
right
know if it was
hand
Khan.
man.
His, yeah, the
Yeah,
young guy who was yeah, and then Kirk's son, of course. Um but
yeah, John and Sobe.
yeah. I do remember when this. Now I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but I remember when it came out. It was had a lot of mixed feelings with a lot of people. That created a little bit of controversy because some people felt like it wasn't. Um, Oh, this is feels like an after school special don't do drugs kind of episode. While some people appreciate the fact that it's still a Star Trek episode, because Star Trek was always meant to like tackle issues in society. So this was just another one they were tackling. So, but it would really created a lot of buzz with some people who were like, I know was this season 1 or season 2?
Season 1.
It was season 1. Okay. Because I know a lot of um, uh, season 1 was still trying to find its footing. But for the real diehard fans, I know it was a little bit of a bitter pill. So I
Yeah.
do remember it created a bit of controversy, and I don't know if when that first one first aired. Um, but
And
I
you,
did. Mhm.
I was gonna say you touched on something there about, because it was a little thing. It aired ahead of its time in a sense, because it was in the 80s, like we discussed about, like,
Yeah,
it was in the late 80s and stuff and everything
yeah,
else. And that kind of little thing about, like, drugs, it showed
mm,
that, even Tasha even said it, on her home world,
right.
drugs was still a problem. Like, even in the future,
Mm,
we're not. If we jump, say one of us was able to jump 100 years or 200 years in the future,
mm.
would drug addiction still be a thing?
Would still be, yeah. I think it still would be.
It
They
showed that,
approached it a little bit differently.
even
Mm,
though these high technological
yeah.
society, our species and stuff like that has created, more
Mhm.
capable interstellar vessels and stuff, you know, addiction is still a prevalent thing
Yeah.
in the greater
No,
future.
Earth may have solved the problem by then in the Star Trek universe, but you could tell it was still something happening in other worlds. Um,
Yes,
but that
yes.
was that was
You
always kind
mentioned
of Star Trek, whether it was whether they were talking about racism or anything like that. It was Earth had solved it, but now they were going outside of Earth to find it still happening on other worlds. This type of thing. So it was
mhm.
interesting too. Was this 86 or 88 or 87?
This
88.
was 80. I think it was 88, because
Yeah, early
88?
it.
88.
Because I don't know if
Mhm.
the whole war on drugs thing was still happening too, because that was a
Yeah,
big push through the 80s with the Reagan era, which I think had just come
yeah.
to an end. So I don't know if we kind of bounced off that a little bit or not, but um, I
Yeah,
know
it
that was.
was.
Yeah, I did bring it up briefly earlier on the episode. Yeah, so it's like Reagan's just say no and blah blah blah. That just now I'm just thinking of I don't know how old he was. He's probably in high school. I was still in sixth grade, but this dude came out. I think it was through the DARE program, drug abuse resistance education for those youngins that have no idea what that is. But I forget what his real name was, but his nickname was Odie, and he drew some pretty wicked looking, like Garfield Odie type dog.
Okay.
But in retrospect, he was a pothead.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
pothead.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
But I
Okay.
don't as a Star Trek episode, I guess without going into too many plot details or anything, but I don't. It's hard to say how do you feel as it holding up today? Like there's some episodes that still I think are very prevalent. In some ways it is, but I don't know how
I
for
see it
young
like,
people finding it. Mm,
I- you know, you look at it from this, there was a side, like, Dr. Crusher. She's the
mhm,
chief medical officer on the ship.
yeah,
When she found out the whole story about,
mhm.
and stuff and everything else, she was just absolutely horrified. She
Livid,
even
yeah.
asked Picard, let me, I could synthesize something that can help wean them off of it. But he was like, no,
Mhm.
basically Prime Directive and
So we
stuff.
can't do that. Yeah.
And you could see her distraught nature of
Mm.
seeing a society struggle with addiction, and she wouldn't let it go. And then the scene where her and Picard was at the end in the turbo lift,
Mm-hmm.
He
a good
halted the
scene
turbo
actually.
rig.
Yeah, yeah.
He had to remind her just exactly why the Prime Directive is a must and what they can do for other worlds
Hmm.
that are less advanced than they are, and
Yeah,
they cannot and everything else and stuff.
what they
And it
can't.
was
Yeah,
it was one of those things where it showed that she was she was just absolutely just almost to the point where she was willing to just basically end her career by telling them, hey, you
overstop it.
know,
Yeah, yeah.
these guys are lying to you. Y'all not gonna die and stuff and everything. But Picard was more rational, logical, and he understood
Understood.
Crusher's frustration and stuff, but he also knew that, they must they must do what the Onarans must do what the Breckians did. They must figure out how to wean themselves off of this drug. And
And I gotta
that's why
throw in a
he
good
kept those
performance by
spoils.
Gates.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Good performance by
Oh,
Gates McFadden there too. She
let me tell
was.
you why Tyson's. Let me tell you why Tyson's here. If y'all
Yeah.
didn't see why Gates McFadden and Patrick Stewart walking through, they walking from the door and stuff. Denise Crosby in the back, you can
Yes,
see her doing this.
that was the
She's
episode. She
doing this.
waved goodbye. Yeah.
Yep,
Yep.
yep, yep.
We. I know. I think
Denise.
we talked about that in a previous.
Episode,
We talked
most
about a previous
likely.
episode. Yeah, yeah. We talked a little bit about
You're
that
muted, Tyson.
because the episodes were mixed up. This was after what was supposed to be, or weren't the episodes in the wrong order or something, or they aired them
Something
different
like that.
order? Yeah,
So
Yeah,
she actually
they.
waved goodbye, and you could see it in the episode, like in the background.
Yeah,
yeah.
when Crusher and Picard were leaving the
Hey,
Docking Bay or the
cargo bay. Cargo
cargo bay.
bay.
cargo
My
bay.
my I couldn't spit it
Yeah.
out. The cargo bay. It's really brief. She just leans back and she's like,
Just
"Bye,"
waves. Yeah,
as the doors are closing.
yeah.
I have to go back and look. I didn't
'Cause
notice
she
that.
was leaving, or like it was her
Right,
last day or something like that. Yeah,
right. I
It
have to go
was her
back and watch
last
that.
four. This was her last four. Her being a full member of the, you know,
True.
right,
crew. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but it's
yeah,
like the next episode was Skin of Evil.
right.
yeah.
But so I'm
But
gonna
She wanted out.
yeah.
Oh, by the way, and just really quick, pretty much every episode that's a Doctor Crusher heavy episode has to do with her breaking the Prime Directive one way or another. Just
that is
Oh,
I'll
true.
keep him sedated. Yes, I shouldn't have beamed him up. I don't quote me the Prime Directive. Yes,
Hmm.
I saved his life. Yes, I did. She's always breaking the Prime Directive. She would never make a good captain.
he didn't do
Because
this episode. She didn't do it this episode. She was
She
almost. I could
wanted
tell.
to.
You could just tell she just wanted to just spit
If
it out right
but
there.
if she was
Yeah.
captain of the Enterprise, she would have done it her way.
Oh,
Oh
she
yeah.
would have done it.
She would have.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah,
I
She
had
but
was.
flashes. I had flashes of the last season of Picard go through my mind because how adamant Picard was about holding up the Prime Directive, and yet he got shit for breaking it in the last season of Picard,
Mm,
which I thought was
mm.
kind of funny.
oh
But
yeah. Say hot drop in the Enterprise on a planet, snogging a Baku and a
yeah,
Causing
chicken
the
and the
time,
egg.
and then the time space continuum in the Deveron system that
mhm,
was in all
Yeah,
good things.
yeah, yeah,
yeah, but I was talking about the episode Trusted Sources, the aftermath from after the Enterprise left was not that pretty of a thing.
yeah,
Saying they definitely went through some withdrawals
yeah.
after the but like I
Mm.
said, yeah, they become very health conscious, very um what was the what was that planet that they
What?
went to? Oh god, it's driving me nuts now. From the planet from the episode Justice.
Oh, shoot, you got me on that too and
I
everything.
have to look that up.
Gotcha, stumped for once.
Mm,
Yay!
yeah,
But
You got me.
I would have gotten
but
it.
yeah, say that just kind of like a 180 about the Prime Directive with Picard because I
Mm,
mean he upholds the Prime Directive unless a member of the crew's life is threatened. Then he says screw it, and he just
yeah.
throws it out the window. And
Well, when Wesley was about to be executed, he didn't fight that hard.
Oh
It was
man.
in one of the first season one where he's running on the grass and he goes past the barrier and
Yeah.
they're gonna have to
falls on a
execute
plant.
him. And he's
It
talking to Doctor Crusher and said,
was
"Well,
it
it's
was the
their law. We can't
Edos.
really, yeah, we
The
we'll
Edos.
make an effort. We'll try, but I'm not going to break the Prime Directive. Sorry if your son dies. Now, if Data's going to die, yeah, he'll break the
Yeah.
Prime Directive. But Wesley,
It was
How
the
about
Edos. You remember that was
Edo?
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, 'cause I was thinking of was it the I was thinking that was it the Eloy from the Time Machine with the well I think it's probably like both the original and the remake where the guy goes in a time machine goes to like the year like 150,000 or something like that and saying Earth is a paradise but has those Morlocks feasting
Right.
on the yeah I think it is the
Yeah, yeah.
Eloy and the Morlocks.
Mm.
Eloys and
well,
Morlocks.
guys,
Yeah.
it's almost 6 my time. I have to drop. I got to get ready for the
All
next.
righty.
So have a
All
great
right.
show.
Talk to you
Here,
Good to
later,
see
Tyson.
you
sir.
See you
again.
next. Be
See you
safe.
next week.
See you in the future.
But and I read this is only one of 5 episodes in all of the Next Generation that they did not give a star date.
Oh,
Yes,
really
I remember hearing
interesting.
about that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the
Really? All
other
right.
ones being First Contact, which
Yep.
is like yeah, they're right. Tapestry,
Mhm.
which I mean
Tapestry.
was definitely a lot of bouncing around with that one. Liaisons, and got to give a shout out to Hugo Sub Rosa.
Sub Rosa.
Oh, okay. Mm.
Sub Rosa.
Mm.
Oh boy, Sub Rosa. Oh boy. But also too, one of the I don't know if anybody caught this, but this is just me, where I'm always listening for the little things. So when Picard and this is at the very end, when Picard and not Riker, when Picard and Crusher walked off the turbo lift at the end where they come to, when the conclusion of the show,
Hmm.
he said, Mr. LaForge, laying the course, he said, the destination, he said,
I don't care. Mhm.
but what tripped me out about this episode is Jordy LaForge, he said course 970 mark 318. Now, just a little technical babble and technical things, stuff and everything. I don't know if anybody else you know, understand this, but in a three-dimensional universe which we live in,
Mm.
I learned this from Wesley when he, would data lore that the Enterprise or any ship in a three-dimensional 360 degrees like that. And
Right.
then when you say mark, you go
The other
circle.
way.
You know, so when
Oh, I read that.
both both heading when you lay in the course and stuff, you say anything between 360 each direction.
Mhm.
Now, when Jordy said, when he took it, said 997, I said, up, wait, wrong. Nine, that's a big number from 360-degree,
Yeah.
course setting and stuff and everything else. If you trying to plot a course in a three-dimensional universe and you using the azimuth and the stuff, it should be start with a three, like
Mm.
3, 3, 3, 6, 7, something like
Right.
that, but not like, oh, let's just throw out a giant nine. I'm like, that didn't make no sense
He
in my
says, "Oops."
opinion. If you
They're gonna
if
do a
you're
That
loop.
flying a
They're gonna do
starship.
a loop de loop.
mm,
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like what, I was just like, oh, those one of those technical
Maybe that's why
flubbers
you
that
got
I caught.
fired. We're putting you an engineer. You steer anything.
What are you trying to do? You're gonna try to warp them into a star or something, or some sort of giant loop de loop or something? It's like you need to bring those number down, Jordan, because you're corsetting. And
Yeah.
he said they was going to the upper line system because they never
Uh,
been.
all
Which
right.
I was like, well, that's curious. I never heard of the upper line system.
Hmm. Better the following
That's just a
episode
little
actually.
thing.
Uh,
Go ahead, Phil.
I was saying, what's funny is when it ends like going to another system. I thought, do they actually? Is that where they actually go to in the following episode, or is that?
No.
I would have thought if they did, but I
No,
guess not.
no. They didn't even say like I don't know, Dave, or did they say anything about is Brecca or Onar located in the alpha or beta quadrant?
I don't think they mentioned either, but can probably figure that out here in a hot second.
I never heard them defining which quadrant Brecca or Onar. I almost want to say they was in the alpha quadrant because if it was the Bring, wouldn't you say the Bring is in the alpha quadrant?
Right.
Yeah, they're
You
definitely an
know,
alpha quadrant species. Uh,
but
uh,
then too, I was a little puzzled about just how far they said that they made first contact with these planets over 2 centuries ago,
mhm.
Mhm.
and we look at the time frame from well, if it's 2 centuries from it was the year 2364 at that time, 2363, 2365,
Mhm.
2364 in Star Trek time. You look back and it's like 200 years. It's like, wow, this was even before Kirk's time. And you look
Yeah, I was gonna
200,
say. Yeah.
it had to be, it's like, what ship made contact with them that far out?
Yeah, it's
It's
just
like,
Mhm.
probably like the late 22nd century after Enterprise, because it just says a Federation scout ship arrived in the system
Mhm.
to document what's going on. But even Memory Alpha is uncertain if it was in the alpha or beta quadrant.
mm,
Mhm.
I get it. I get it. Okay. Okay. Wow. I thought those little technical things that
Yeah.
that I like to I like to
Mhm.
like play around with and stuff and everything. But I'm glad you mentioned about this is one of the first few episodes that didn't have a star date. You know,
Mhm. Interesting.
yeah. But all in all, so, when it comes to this particular episode, I mean, we discussed it, a little bit at length. You know, addiction. And I know
Mhm.
Dave said that some of the episodes that we're going to be venturing into this month is going to be on forms of different addiction and stuff and everything else.
Okay.
This one was a form of not substance abuse in a sense. You could say substance abuse and stuff, but it was a form of an addiction of like a drug dealer who basically was given drugs to their clientele. And there a
Mhm.
certain point, they was like, hey, that they said they was scrambling, they was arguing about who the content of the shipment belonged to and stuff, and we saw at the end, they realized, you know what, we're just gonna give it to them, and we talk about like, compensations for later and stuff and everything else. And
Mhm.
you start looking like that, not saying that people who are drug dealers will get who would just put you who would just say, I'm gonna give you your fix and stuff and everything else, and we'll talk about price later and stuff and
Mhm.
everything else.
Right.
But it's one of those things where
Interesting.
you can see they use it as a negotiation tool. They use it in their like
Sure.
negotiation
Oh yeah,
way and
absolutely.
stuff and everything. And it kind of reminded me of what we're happening now today. I'm not getting too
Mhm.
political and stuff like that, but it kind of reminded me of what's going on
Yeah.
with our current government here in the US and stuff and everything, just the kind of tactics they use for a negotiation ploy,
Right.
and stuff to get a better deal
Hmm.
and stuff. That's just how I kind of see 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 it in some ways and stuff. But
Yeah, but
uh,
like I was kind of touching base on at the beginning of the episode tonight is even though that my primary addiction was alcohol, and I still deal with that struggle, though I am 11 and a half months sober. That's the key component.
congratulations.
May 18th,
Hmm.
that which is not this Sunday, but next Sunday. I'm
Right.
going to be getting my 1 year chip, so I'm going to be an emotional mess on the 19th, showing off my 1 year chip.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah, you
figured
deserve it.
that I
So,
I do.
yeah.
Thank you. But I figured just like even though say in Star Trek, even though we do see some alcoholism, it's with wasn't until Picard with Raffi because she had alcohol and substance abuse issues. So it's
Yes,
definitely
yes.
prevalent even almost to the 25th century. It
Hmm.
it's like one of those things that's it's still a thing. If you let it happen, it'll happen. But
And you know what, Star Trek. This is the thing about Star Trek. They not shy away to tackle into those kind of things. It's saying, look, this world, this fantasy world is set in the future,
mhm,
but most likely human beings are still going to be tackled with certain things that we're still dealing with here in the 21st century. It may be the 23rd, 24th, 25th century and stuff, but could possibly humans be still dealing with this centuries from now?
Hmm.
know, and how do and then how do one deals with it, you know, in their time and stuff and everything. This is just all. I mean, yeah, Star Trek is all make believe and everything and stuff, fantasy and stuff. We enjoy it and everything else, but it's one of the things to give us, you know, uh, a what if,
Hmm.
a type of
mhm.
like a what if, the possibility of, what's going to happen to humans a couple of centuries from now when it comes to substance abuse or alcoholism or any other forms of addictions and stuff and everything. How would they deal with it versus how we deal with it today?
I agree. But
Can I actually one sort of slightly off topic in a way, but something that sort of that struck me when I was watching some of the scenes from it, just more on a technical sense. I'd have to go back and see this again. I wish had time to kind of rewind it, but I like sort of taking note of like music and effects and things like that, and because it especially if you watch like a first episode and you watch progress through the years, it's they're shot and it very differently than is when it came to like the end of the seventh season, and even the music is handled differently in that. And there was a
Hmm.
lot of dramatic beats used in the music, especially when they were at the table having the discussion. I think early on, when they were kind of first having their first discussion between the two the two races, I guess, or the two what do you
Narns and
call it?
Breckons.
Yeah, yeah. And I swear I have to go back and listen to the game, but I was listening to the music and there's this boom, boom, this kind of um beat kind of to the music. And I swear there was a strain in there that was sort of an original series um bit of music, or they had used because there's a bit of suspenseful music that was used throughout the original series. When something really suspenseful was happening, and I swear they kind of used a little bit of that in there, and it's very rare they did that because they had a whole separate score, a whole different set of music that they didn't reuse anything hardly from the original series. But that beat in there, I noticed kind of caught my attention. I thought that sounds like that. I don't know if you know the music I'm talking about, but
The first two seasons of Enterprise, or not Enterprise,
Mhm.
but Star Trek
Next
Next
Gen,
Generation,
yeah.
there's the scores and stuff was almost, it was similar to the TOS. It seemed like that
Mm,
you look at it and they have that you was just you just complaining about that.
right.
They had that dramatic effect and everything when it's getting ready to cut to a commercial
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
and and and,
Mhm.
and,
That
and there's something intense happening and stuff. You
Mm,
were like, oh yeah, that sounds just like something from TOS, and then you got that. You could feel that they had that similarity when it comes to the scores of
right.
each episode
Mm,
and stuff. That's I think by the time third season came around, they changed it up a little bit.
yes. Yeah. For sure.
yeah, say that's one thing that Ron Jones was really good at was trying to instill like some of those original series cues, yet at the same
Mhm.
time get it updated. And this is and kind of talking about original series. I'm sure if Katie was here, her skin would be crawling. We've been talking about TOS. It's not on purpose, Katie, I promise. But
Just the
this is
music
not
I'm
the
talking about.
first
Just the
time.
music.
Well, this is not the first time we've seen a species with like electromagnetic properties to use
Sure.
as a
Yeah.
weapon fighting against others. The other one being "Let That Be Your Last Battlefield," which I still say is definitely one of the stronger episodes from the third season of the
Mm,
original series because you had
Yes,
Lokai
yes.
yeah.
and Belay or Belay, I forget how you pronounce it. But like I said, just yeah, had I realized that the puppy that we adopted at the shelter 11 years ago almost had a face like Lokai, I would have called her Lokai.
Uh,
Because when someone
You
said,
know
"You have a
something?
strong to it, dog," I'm like, "Holy shit, I do."
Like, yeah, yeah. The thing about that too, you look at it, you just touched on something too that um when it comes to you know that whole thing, you it makes you feel like wow, if they were really trying to make. I guess you could say they were trying to make people from the grew up in the TOS era
mm,
feel like, you know what, this is a continuation. And they
yes.
really enjoy
Oh yeah, they did.
and they try to input, a lot of that, TOS type of sound into the, Star Trek, Next
Oh yeah.
Generation cast and stuff and everything else. And you look at it, you'd be like, yeah, you hear that dramatic effect and stuff, and you hear, when Picard has that like look, but he don't give that, William Shatner, oomph and
Yeah.
everything else. He had his own like little thing when they cut into a commercial and stuff.
Yeah.
It made you feel like if you wasn't mistaken, this is almost a TOS type of show in a
Mm,
way, but it's TNG. Not saying that
yeah.
it is, so nobody get mad at me for saying that. But I really, I like this. I enjoyed this episode, rewatching it, going back and everything else. Because I remember
Sure.
when I was watching, I was a kid at the time. I
Mm,
didn't understand the whole underlining nuance of addiction and stuff. I just remember watching it, just like, oh, okay, stuff. But I didn't understand,
yeah.
the context and the meaning behind it and stuff like that. As I got older, I realized, oh wow, this was a little ahead of
Mm,
his time, like we explained earlier about like the campaign Just Say No, the Dare campaign and stuff and everything. So
And the dare to just say no,
mm,
just
which
say no.
yeah, I was a delicate flower. Then I got corrupted when I moved to Seattle.
yeah.
Oh, Seattle, you corrupted Dave Prime, you corrupted him and stuff. But you watching how Picard walked the very you know line of he understood that his hands was tied by the Prime Directive. Even though people want to argue about like he'll break the Prime Directive when he wants to or stuff like that. The Prime Directive gives a captain a way of saying, look, we have our own set of moral, ethical laws and stuff and everything else.
Mm,
Is there a time that they can break the Prime Directive and get away with it, even even letting their superior know this is the reason why we broke the Prime Directive, in this case and stuff like that, with keeps them from getting, something in their permanent file and everything else and stuff. But like he walked a very fine tightrope of wanting to say, hey, these people are, really misleading you guys. Crusher, we already knew what Dr. Crusher wanted to say. She basically wanted to just blur it out and just say, hey,
Yeah.
stop taking the drug. Y'all not gonna die. I can help you guys, but of course,
because
Picard basically said,
yeah, yeah, because yeah, Crusher's a doctor first, a Starfleet officer second. That's the way that I saw her
Yeah.
situation.
she reminded me of Dr. Julian Bashir in Deep Space Nine.
Mm.
When when medical ethics come up for there was the one time where him and Chief O'Brien got stranded on a planet in a gamma quadrant and they ran into some Jem'Hadars. And I remember, you know, one of the Jem'Hadar basically he was he how he put it, he was the only survivor of a crash, ship, and he didn't have no Ketracel White anything. So he was addicted to a drug that the founders, provided them to keep them under control. But
Mm.
he winged himself from the Ketracel White.
It's funny
And
that you talk about that because that's next week's episode.
the Chronicles,
Oh, for
I'm
heaven's
going right
sake.
into it. I'm going right into it and everything
Mm.
else. But needless to say,
Mm.
not to get too much into it and everything else. But that reminded me of like uh Dr. Crusher and Dr. Bashir. They have that for them, their doctor instinct comes first before
Yep.
their Starfleet, rank in career and stuff and everything. They want to do the best. They want to try to help everybody if as they can to see their suffering and stuff.
Mm.
If you guys remember too, like what was that? Oh shit! What past tense when they went back in time?
Mhm.
When Bashir, Jazia, and Cisco went back in time to San Francisco. And he was talking to Cisco about people's plight about the time stuff, the suffering and everything else. You could see that he was so, distraught to say, why should people, when there could be stuff and everything else. You could see that, he was thinking as a, you know, doctor
Position.
instead of
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
and stuff like that and everything. So, it makes you, appreciate that they throw in and that aspect of Star Trek in Star Trek realm. They like, keep the whole, you know, not the center of the gray area, but like make sure you don't want to. There's not such a black and white, but that gray area where Starfleet captains and most people live in, where you have to walk that fine line of the Prime Directive, and try not to interfere in less developed society, because you never know what that can do to to their culture. But I'm sorry, I did a lot too much talking and stuff.
No,
Oh,
you're
no, no,
you-
no. I was
you're
just
you're
checking.
the
You can wait to
co-host
bounce
tonight,
off
so
that.
you can talk as much as you need to.
I
But yeah,
thought it was
we are starting to run a little tight on time, but I don't think
Okay.
there. I look at my notes again. I don't think there's anything else prevalent because I mean it. I mean, even with today, like a lot of these Star Trek episodes from 30 years ago, that a lot of the topics that they talk about still hold true today, and in some
Mhm.
cases hold even more true. Just
Mhm.
like with past tense, a lot of the stuff that happened in the Star Trek timeline is happening right now. Not that as dire with sanctuary cities, but and they touched base on that again with
Mhm.
season 2 of Picard when they went to 2024 Los Angeles. So,
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah, of course, just a small plug on that. Just and I was think it was someone talking on one of the spaces. I don't know if it was a Discord channel or something, but they're just like, it was the punk on the bus from Star Trek 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Seven just, will you out that damn noise? And he's like,
Oh
sorry,
yeah.
because he still has post traumatic stress from that from Spock giving him the pinch.
So it's funny that he was in San Francisco at the time, and then this time he was in LA.
Yeah, it just
Oh,
Couldn't get
that
away.
I'll keep on saying thankful when I watched that the first time. I was when they were starting to play the music with the exterior shot of the bus, and I was just like,
Knew it was
no
coming.
way. And then
Yeah.
interior shot, it's the same Kirk Thatchwood, or I think that's that guy's name.
I
It
was
was him.
wondering if they were gonna do that. Yeah.
And I was my sides were splitting so hard
Yeah.
I had to stop. I
It's-
had to stop because I was
yeah.
just I couldn't watch the
It's-
episode. I was laughing so hard. It's like, oh my god, that was a thing of beauty. Then I rewound it and watched it again. But yeah, that was some
He
odd.
apparently wrote the music for that too. For that,
He
he's
wrote
a musician.
the original for Star Trek 4. He wrote that, and then
Yeah,
the
performed it.
2024 the 2023 variant.
Mm.
Yeah, he wrote that one too because. But
Did
yeah,
he? Yeah.
he is an awesome guy. I follow him on Twitter.
Oh, was that right?
wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
same.
okay.
And
Fun.
of course, Jeff gets some just as we're starting
Mm.
to wrap up the episode. Darn it.
Put someone else in.
Say,
Oh,
but is there anything that you wanted to chime in on the episode, Jeff, since we got about 5 minutes to go? Give him a second to respond. Who knows what the
I can't see
delay
the chat
is
on
on.
this. I'm on my phone and I can't see the chat. Unfortunately, I don't know how to bring it up.
It's if you're honestly, I'm not sure. I think there is a way with the if you're
I'm not
using the
logged in.
Discord. Well, if you're using the Discord link, it'll definitely show you. But if you're
Mm.
using the YouTube link, I'm not sure.
YouTube. Yeah. My the internet is not very good in here at the moment. The landlady that owns the house, she's going to be planning on switching providers. So at the moment it's really low. So I was surprised it's
Uh,
actually been handling this good.
Oh yeah, you're coming through just fine.
Right?
I haven't
Okay.
yeah,
seen
absolutely.
any
Okay.
lag or hiccups other than the hiccups I was experiencing at the
Right.
very
Once in a
beginning.
while I get a refresh, the screens refresh a little bit just for a quick like half a second, but that's about it.
Hmm.
So far it's been handling okay, but I am using my phone though, so
Yeah.
but
Say
It's gonna
Travis has
take you.
experience with that.
yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I finally got my new laptop and everything.
Yeah, I'd say
Uh,
when Katie brought to my attention that she was feeling well, it's like, ooh, Travis has a laptop. I'll ask Travis
yeah.
if he
Well,
could fit in.
I'm here to serve and all everything else. Hopefully, Phil, whenever you get yourself settled in and your system up and running, you won't have to hold your phone.
Yeah, no, hopefully this is the next everything's just in boxes. I'm hoping this week to have everything unpacked, get the table set up, the computer, and by next Monday I should be good to go again.
Right, as
So
rain. Let's see.
hopefully, fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
I got a cell phone stand
Oh,
which goes pretty high
that's
for stuff like that.
Okay,
Was it?
okay.
that's what I should get is something like that, something separate for the phone.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, here's my final thoughts for this episode and stuff
Yeah.
and everything else.
Yeah.
When it comes to this, particular episode because it dealt with addiction and stuff and everything else, we as human beings, not saying that, drugs can be a bitch. Any kind of, if you, as Tyson put it earlier, if you get hooked onto something like opioids or something and everything else, and to get off of it, it would take tremendous amount of willpower to
You need
get
a help
yourself off.
number at the bottom of the screen.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And yes, Phil. Yes, Jeff. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember, if
The
you
thing
find
about
yourself struggling with addiction or know someone who does,
yeah, be sure to
Yeah,
get in touch with your local your local help, and stuff and everything else, and
yeah,
seek AA. I mean,
yeah,
Dave can
yeah,
testify to this.
that is true.
yeah, saying, yeah,
Right.
so yeah, AA has kept me sober. I'm saying, working with a sponsor, they at the end of a
AA or
lot of the
triple
groups that what's that?
AA or triple? Did you say AA?
Yeah, AA,
AA, right?
AA,
Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay, okay.
Is
alcoholics.
see
Triple A
we
is auto.
end. Yeah, see, I might have
Sorry.
stuttered, but I meant only two A's.
Too late.
Say,
AAA will come pick
oh,
you up.
no, that's Lyft. That's my other job.
Oh,
But no, a lot of the meetings I go to, we always end it with say, what is a sponsor? A sponsor is a closed mouth
Mm,
friend that's worked the steps and they will help help the individual that is struggling. They don't keep you sober, but working with a sponsor helps helps you keep that sobriety.
mm,
And thanks to my sponsor, I think it was about 2 months before I started working with mine, and it took another month before I hit even step one. So
mm,
it's just admitting that alcohol had control over my life, and my life had become unmanageable. And saying, Travis, you've witnessed it. Katie's witnessed it. A lot of people in the DT family witnessed it, and I was just like blinders on. I was that dog in the burning
yeah.
house, just like I'm fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
It took me going to those rooms to realize
Mm,
I was
mm,
not fine.
yeah, yeah.
And whenever I feel like relapsing, like I had an accusation that I ran a stoplight with a customer in the car, which I would never have done.
Mm,
And see, I asked them immediately, when did it happen? Let me pull up my dash cam video to prove that I didn't do that.
mm,
And
yeah,
they say, "Oh, we can't do that, but you're fine." Because whenever I throw that word dash cam and say,
yeah.
y- but then apparently
Can't blame that.
a system
Uh-oh.
error said that I inappropriately touched a customer.
Ugh.
And I immediately jumped on that. I'm like, what?
Mm-mm.
I would never, ever, 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 ever do anything like that. And plus, consider the fact that pretty much all my customers up to that point that day were women. I tell them, I'm gay. Why the?
It's like it's like you're to
And needless
me.
to say, I
Yeah.
was done. I was done for the day at that point because I had to pick up the housemates to get to an AA meeting. But the first person I called was my sponsor.
Yeah.
I had to get that off my chest, otherwise it would have eaten at me and
Mm.
probably would have driven me to drink.
Ah,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
But yeah,
uh,
AA has been a salvation in my
Mm,
life, which it is getting time for me to call it good to get some people to the meeting.
mm.
Mm.
well, this has been a
But
fun
All right,
episode.
dude.
it was
All
so
right.
as I kind of like touched base earlier, saying Travis already kind of like jumped the gun a little bit. We're talking Hippocratic Oath next week, where
All right.
Bashir's helping trying to duplicate what this one Jem'Hadar, Ramataklan, if I remember his name correctly.
Good makeup job on
Um,
that.
oh yeah, see they did a really good job with that, and it's actually an episode that Rene Aubergenois directed, so I think it was
Oh,
his first
interesting. All
one.
right. Very good. All right.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Interesting. A
good.
quick question for you, Dave.
What's it?
Since is this month going to be
It's all going to be related to addiction, so we're going to do this one. Going to do Hippocratic Oaths next week,
wondering if you're
and
going to do the next gen episode with the game that the whole crew becomes addicted
I
to?
was thinking about that one too, but
Yeah.
I was thinking Damage from Enterprise would be a good one
Okay.
when T'Pol's going through that. I think it's Trillium D was the name of the
Right.
drug that she was taking when they're in the Expanse, and she is dealing with some of the symptoms and going kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the game that's more. Yeah, it did screw with their head psychologically, but maybe. And saying I haven't done anything on it yet, but
Hmm.
I'm going to try and get. I want to try and get a special guest to talk about on
Oh,
another episode.
interesting.
It's going to be if I
Very
pull
good.
this one off, it's going to be recorded space. It's not going to be a live space. So it's just going
All
to
right.
be me, Katie, and this individual.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah,
That's interesting.
fingers crossed that something like that'll happen. If not,
Yeah.
it would be Memorial Day for America. Same. Don't know if we're going to
Mhm.
get much of a live participation regardless. So I think a recorded space would work
That'll be the
perfectly for that.
26th.
25th, I think.
The 25th or the 26th? Because Memorial
Oh,
It's
Day
May
is the 4th.
4.
it's the 26th. Yeah, because the 18th is that the Sunday before. So yeah,
That's the May
26th.
2-4 weekend in Canada.
Is what?
The May 2. They call it the May 2-4 weekend in Canada.
May 24. Yeah,
That's
that's my baby brother's birthday.
oh yeah.
Yeah, say a week after Mount St.
We
Helens.
don't. Yeah. It's not
Oh,
called that
wow.
because of the date. They call it that because of that's the one that everybody goes buys the packs of 24 beer and goes up to the cottage. They got nicknamed the May 2-4 weekend.
And this year, they're not buying American beer up there.
No, not this time around. Yeah,
Um,
not for a little while, I'm afraid.
Oh, I
Yeah,
understand that,
oh,
Phil. I don't blame you. I
yeah,
don't blame you.
yeah. We'll get it back
Oh,
on track eventually.
yes,
but
we will.
Yeah.
Yes,
so
we will.
say yeah, just to give you a quick heads up, Travis, since I see you do it quite often, says when I hit end stream, you don't have to drop off immediately. It's just like DT. We sometimes hang for a minute or two, but if you need to drop, you need to drop because yeah, I need to drop myself.
Usually when I
So
drop because I have to go pee.
oh,
Oh,
me too.
all right.
Okay, till next week. May Spock be with you.
Cheers, everyone.
Live long